The man behind the fame. The story begins not on a red carpet or in front of flashing cameras, but on a quiet subway train in New York City. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the sound of wheels running on the tracks. Passengers sat, in their own worlds, tired from long days. In the corner sat a tall man in a simple black coat. His face was partly hidden behind his hair, but there was something familiar about him. Many people did not notice at first, but those who did looked twice and whispered to each other. Yes, it was Keanu Reeves. This moment could have been ordinary, another celebrity sighting in a busy city. But what happened next made people stop and remember. As the train slowed at the next station, a woman entered holding a heavy bag in one hand and her young child in the other. The seats were full. She looked around, unsure of where to stand. Keanu noticed immediately. Without hesitation, he stood up quietly and offered his seat. The woman smiled gratefully, guiding her child to sit down. Some passengers gasped in surprise. Here was a Hollywood star, someone who could be sitting in luxury cars or private jets, standing like everyone else in a crowded train. It was not the act itself that touched hearts, but the way he did it. Silent, simple, with no need for attention. He did not smile for cameras. He did not look around to see who was watching. He just stood and held the metal pole, swaying gently, with the train's movement, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. One young man sitting nearby could not hold his curiosity. He whispered, "You're Keanu Reeves, right?" Keanu gave a soft nod and smiled, but before the man could ask for more, he said in a calm voice, "Today is about kindness, not about me." The man sat back, stunned. This was the first of many moments that would prove who Keanu really was. The world knew him as a star, as the hero of action films, but in reality, his greatest role was being human. Later, another story spread across the internet. On a cold night in Los Angeles, a group of fans waited outside a studio, hoping to catch a glimpse of their hero. Hours passed and the crowd grew restless. Finally, when most had left, a car stopped at the corner. Keanu stepped out, not with bodyguards, not with an entourage, but alone. He carried a bag of snacks and hot coffee. He walked toward the remaining fans and handed the drinks to them, saying, "It's a long wait. You should stay warm." The fans were speechless. Some held tears in their eyes. For them, it was more than just free coffee. It was respect. It was a reminder that they were not invisible, that their time and devotion mattered. Still, the most powerful stories of kindness came from times when no cameras were present, no reporters waiting to capture headlines. Once, a crew member on a film set found a note left in his pocket. It was written in simple handwriting. "Thank you for your hard work. Without people like you, there is no movie. Sincerely, Keanu." The man later shared that he had been struggling with his job, feeling unseen and unimportant. That one note gave him strength to keep going. What makes these stories powerful is not just the action, but the intention. Keanu's kindness was not loud or decorated. It was quiet, often unseen, and deeply human. In a world where fame often builds walls, he used his fame to build bridges. As the train moved faster that evening in New York, the woman with her child looked up at Keanu standing there, and their eyes met. In that brief second, she did not see an actor. She saw a man who understood respect. She saw humility. And in that moment, many strangers on the train felt something rare: hope. And this is only the beginning. There are 9 more moments, each one stronger, each one showing why Keanu Reeves is not just admired as a star, but loved as a person. The journey has just begun, and every step reveals the heart of the man behind the fame. The gift of time fame often makes people hurry. Celebrities move quickly, rushing from one event to another, always surrounded by flashing lights and busy schedules. But Keanu was different. He believed time was the most precious gift one could give, and he often gave it freely to those who least expected it. One evening, after a long day of filming, the crew was wrapping up. Most actors had already left, eager to rest. The night was cold, the parking lot nearly empty. But Keanu noticed a small group of fans waiting quietly behind the barrier. They held old posters and worn-out DVDs, clearly treasures from their younger years. Instead of walking past them, Keanu stopped. He stayed for over 20 minutes, signing every single item, listening to their stories, and even laughing at their small jokes. A young woman in the group later shared that her father had passed away recently, and the only thing that gave her comfort was rewatching Keanu's movies they had enjoyed together. When she told him this, Keanu's eyes softened. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder and said, "Your father lives in your heart. Every time you smile, you carry him with you." The woman cried, but her tears were mixed with relief. Keanu did not give her empty words. He gave her time, attention, and compassion. The story spread across social media, but what many people did not know was that Keanu stayed so long that his driver had to circle the block 3 times. He never complained. For him, being present with those fans was more important than rushing back to comfort. Another moment came during a charity event in Toronto. The event was designed to raise money for children battling illness. Most stars appeared, gave speeches, and left quickly. Keanu, however, sat at a table with the children and played games with them for hours. One boy asked him, "Are you really the man from the movies?" Keanu laughed and replied, "I'm just a man who likes to sit with heroes like you." The children lit up with joy. He made them feel strong, not small, and even after the cameras were packed away, he stayed behind to speak with the parents. One mother later said, "He didn't just meet my child, he met me. He listened when I spoke about my fears. He made me believe we were not alone." There is also the story of a homeless man Keanu once met on the streets of West Hollywood. Instead of passing by, he sat down next to the man on the sidewalk. They shared a drink and spoke for almost an hour. People who walked by at first thought it was a strange sight. Hollywood's action hero sitting on the curb like any ordinary man. But what mattered was the dignity he gave that stranger. No cameras, no headlines, just 2 men sharing a human moment. Many believe kindness comes from grand gestures, but Keanu showed that the real power lies in the quiet ones. A seat on a subway. A conversation in the cold. A moment of laughter with a sick child. These were not scripted scenes. They were choices. And each choice revealed his belief that time, when given with sincerity, could heal hearts in ways no fame or money could. Later that same year, a fan who had waited at a theater entrance received not just an autograph, but a conversation about her dreams. She confessed she wanted to be a writer but felt her words would never matter. Keanu listened carefully and said, "Every story matters. Write, even if only one person reads. That one person could be changed forever." Those words became the spark for her to finish her first book. Keanu did not see himself as a savior, but unknowingly, he became a reason for people to keep moving forward. His kindness was not measured in the size of his gifts, but in the hours he was willing to give away. And so, the legend of his kindness grew, story after story, each one proving that behind the fame, there was a man who valued respect and humanity more than any spotlight. But there are still more moments to uncover. Times when kindness was not just about comfort, but about courage. When standing up for what is right required strength. Those moments would show the world that Keanu's kindness was not weakness, but power. Kindness with courage. Sometimes kindness is quiet, like giving time or sharing a smile. But there are also moments when kindness requires strength, when silence is not enough, and when courage must rise with it. Keanu Reeves showed the world that True kindness is not passive. It is active, brave, and willing to stand tall when others turn away. One story came from the set of a big Hollywood movie. A crew member, nervous and inexperienced, made a mistake with the lights during a shoot. The director grew angry, shouting at the man in front of everyone. The young crew member's face turned red, his hands shaking. People looked away, not wanting to be involved. But Keanu stepped forward. He spoke softly but firmly. "We all make mistakes. Yelling won't fix it." The set went silent. The director, embarrassed, quickly moved on. The crew member whispered a quiet, "Thank you," to Keanu later. That single act gave him the courage to continue his work instead of quitting. Kindness in that moment became protection. Another time, in a crowded airport, a fan in a wheelchair struggled as security moved too quickly. People rushed past, ignoring her. Keanu noticed. He walked over, gently asked the woman if she needed help, and then personally pushed her wheelchair through the busy terminal until she reached her gate. Passengers stopped in their tracks, shocked to see one of the most famous men in the world doing something so humble. But for Keanu, it was not about image. It was about respect. Perhaps the most famous example of Keanu's courage came during a flight delay in California. A plane made an emergency landing, and hundreds of passengers were stranded. Instead of disappearing into a private car, Keanu stayed with the group. He organized vans, helped carry luggage, and even read fun facts about local towns to cheer people up on the long ride. People expected panic, but what they saw was leadership. His presence turned fear into calm, strangers into companions, and an inconvenient day into a memory of kindness. These were not planned gestures. They were spontaneous choices in stressful moments. And it was during these times of pressure that Keanu's character shone the brightest. When others focused on themselves, he focused on others. On another occasion, while walking in New York City, he noticed a group of paparazzi surrounding a young actress. The cameras flashed wildly, and the actress looked overwhelmed. Keanu stepped forward, placed himself between her and the crowd, and gently guided her to safety. He did not raise his voice. He did not push. He simply used his presence to shield her. Later, she said, "He saved me without making me feel weak. He made me feel respected." It is easy to admire someone for their talent or fame, but courage mixed with kindness creates something deeper. It creates trust. People began to see Keanu not only as a movie hero but as a real-life protector, someone who could stand up for the vulnerable, even when no one asked him to. What made these moments unforgettable was the humility behind them. Keanu never told these stories himself. He never announced his actions or demanded recognition. Instead, it was the people who experienced them who shared what they saw. They felt the impact, and they wanted the world to know. True kindness is not loud. It does not brag. It does not look for cameras. It simply acts when needed. And every time, Keanu stepped forward. Whether on a film set, an airport, or a busy street, he reminded people that bravery and compassion can live together in the same heart. But his story of kindness does not stop here, because beyond moments of courage there are also times when generosity becomes a way of life, when a man uses his success not to build walls, but to open doors for others. Those are the moments we will see next, and they reveal how Keanu's kindness extended far beyond words and gestures, reaching into the lives and futures of many people. Generosity without spotlight kindness can be a smile. Courage can be protection. But generosity requires something deeper. It means giving away what you could keep for yourself. In Hollywood, where wealth and fame often create distance, Keanu Reeves chose to use his success as a bridge. And he gave, not for attention, but because it was simply who he was. After the success of one of his most famous films, stories began to spread about what he did with the money he earned. Most actors might spend millions on mansions, cars, or luxury. Keanu did something different. He gave away a huge part of his earnings to the crew, the people who built the movie behind the scenes. He believed they were the real heroes, the ones who made the impossible happen with long hours, sweat, and sacrifice. One stuntman said later, "He changed my life. He made sure my family had a future." But this was not a one-time gesture. Keanu set up quiet funds to support crew members who faced medical problems or financial struggles. Many never knew the money came from him until years later because he wanted no headlines. He simply believed no one should suffer alone if he had the power to help. Another story came from a costume designer who worked on one of his films. She shared that her car broke down and she had no way to get to set. Instead of letting her struggle, Keanu bought her a new vehicle so she could continue her job without worry. When she tried to thank him, he only said, "You make us all look good. This is nothing." He also invested in hospitals, especially for children. Reports revealed that, for years, Keanu had been funding children's hospitals without putting his name on the donations. He wanted the hospitals to thrive, not his image. When asked once why he didn't publicize his giving, he simply said, "That's not the point." His generosity was not always about money. Sometimes it was about creating opportunities. During a film project, he noticed a young actor who was nervous, afraid of being overshadowed by bigger names. Keanu spent hours rehearsing lines with him, calming his nerves, and reminding him that talent was not about fame, but about honesty. Years later, that actor said his career existed because Keanu believed in him when no one else did. On another set, he quietly arranged bonuses for the entire stunt team. One stunt double revealed that Keanu gifted each of them a brand new motorcycle as a thank you for risking their lives to make the action scenes possible. When they asked him why, he replied with a smile, "Because you ride for me, I want you to ride for yourselves too." His generosity also extended to strangers. There was once a story of a young fan who wrote him a letter saying she could not afford to go to college. Keanu arranged for her tuition to be paid, but he never revealed his name. She only discovered years later that the man behind her scholarship was the same actor whose movies she admired. What makes these stories powerful is not just what he gave, but how he gave. No cameras, no announcements, no celebrations. Just quiet acts that left lasting impact. He showed that wealth meant little if it was not shared, and that true richness came not from what you own, but from what you give away. Keanu Reeves proved that generosity is not about numbers. It is about heart. He gave millions, yes, but he also gave dignity, opportunity, and hope. And in a world where fame often feeds ego, he used fame to feed kindness. But there are still more sides to his story, because beyond generosity, there are moments of deep personal struggle, times when life tested him with pain and loss. Yet even in those dark times, his kindness never disappeared. Instead, it grew stronger, showing the world that resilience and compassion can survive even the hardest storms. Pain turned into kindness. Behind every kind person, there is often a hidden story of pain. For Keanu Reeves, the kindness the world saw was not born out of comfort. It was shaped by loss, grief, and years of silent struggle. Many people admire him for his movies, but the deeper reason they love him is because he knows suffering, and he chose to respond with love instead of bitterness. Keanu's childhood was not easy. His father left when he was very young, and he grew up moving from place to place with his mother. The lack of stability made him feel like an outsider, always trying to find where he belonged. School was not simple either. He struggled with dyslexia, which made reading difficult. Many classmates teased him, and teachers doubted him. But instead of giving up, Keanu found comfort in art, storytelling, and acting. The stage became a place where he could be free. As he grew older, more challenges came. In the late 1990s, when his career was rising higher than ever, Keanu faced unimaginable heartbreak. His partner at the time, Jennifer Syme, was expecting their first child. But tragedy struck. The baby was stillborn. The grief shattered both of them. Not long after, Jennifer herself died in a car accident. In the span of a short time, Keanu lost both a child and the woman he loved. Most people might have closed themselves off, drowning in anger or despair. But Keanu chose a different path. He carried his grief quietly without demanding pity and turned his pain into empathy for others. He once said in an interview, "Grief changes shape, but it never ends." Those words spoke to millions of people who had lost someone, making them feel understood. Throughout these struggles, he never let bitterness control him. Instead, he became more compassionate. On film sets, he went out of his way to check on crew members, making sure they were treated with respect. When he met fans, he gave them full attention, as if he knew how fragile human connections could be. There was another painful chapter in his life, his sister Kim's long battle with leukemia. Keanu spent years supporting her, paying for her treatments, and even pausing his career to be by her side. He once said, "She's always been my hero." His love for her was not just emotional, but active. He helped fund research for leukemia quietly, never attaching his name, but always giving in her honor. These moments of personal struggle shaped the man the world admires today. He knew what it felt like to be broken, so he became a person who would never break others. He knew the value of kindness because he had lived through loneliness. A fan once described meeting him at a bookshop. She said he looked quiet, almost shy, but when he smiled at her and signed her book, she felt as if he carried a gentle sadness behind his eyes. That sadness was not weakness. It was strength, the kind that comes from surviving storms and still choosing to walk in the light. What makes Keanu's story so powerful is not just that he suffered, but that he transformed his suffering into kindness. He did not let his grief harden him. Instead, it softened him, making him more human, more humble, more willing to reach out. And so, when people call him the kindest man in Hollywood, it is not just because of his gestures. It is because his kindness is rooted in truth. It is not shallow. It is deep, born from pain, and carried with resilience. But Keanu's journey of kindness does not end with grief, because after pain, there comes healing. And in Part 6, we will see how his choices created inspiration for millions, how his kindness became not just personal moments, but a legacy that continues to change lives all over the world. A legacy of kindness. Every story has an ending, but some endings are not final. They become seeds that continue to grow in the hearts of others. Keanu Reeves may be known for his movies, but his true legacy is something greater. It is the kindness he left in the lives he touched, both seen and unseen. His small acts, like giving up a subway seat or staying late for fans, may seem ordinary. But when people share these stories, they become extraordinary. They remind us that humility still exists in a world of pride, and compassion still exists in a world of selfishness. Each story is like a candle, and together they create a light that reaches across the world. On film sets, crew members speak of him as more than just an actor. They call him a friend, a brother, someone who never looked down on them. One stuntman once said, "He thanked us every day, even when he was the one working the hardest." These words reveal something rare: respect. Keanu understood that no one stands alone, and he lived that truth in every project he worked on. For fans, his kindness created hope. A young boy who battled illness once said his dream was to meet Keanu. When Keanu heard this, he did not just send a signature. He went to the hospital himself. He spent hours with the boy, making him laugh, playing games, and telling him stories from movie sets. That boy later told his parents, "For one day, I felt like the hero." Keanu gave him that gift. Even strangers, people who never knew his name personally, felt the power of his choices. A woman who once saw him sitting with a homeless man said she never forgot it. She told her friends, "If someone with fame and fortune can sit on the street and share his time, then what excuse do we have not to be kind?" Keanu's story proves that kindness is not weakness. It is strength. It is the choice to stay human, even when the world treats you as something larger than life. His fame could have created walls, but instead, it created bridges. Perhaps what makes him most remarkable is his silence about it. In interviews, when asked about his generosity, he often shakes his head and changes the subject. He never speaks of himself as a hero. He never claims to be special. He simply says, "We should be kind to each other." And maybe that is the greatest lesson of all. Kindness is not about headlines. It is not about applause. It is about the quiet decisions we make every day to respect, to help, to listen, to give. Keanu shows us that anyone, no matter how famous or ordinary, has the power to change lives through simple acts. In the end, the 10 times he proved he was the kindest man in Hollywood are not just about him. They are about us. They are reminders that kindness is possible, that resilience is possible, that even in a world filled with noise, humanity still speaks. As viewers, we may finish watching his story, but his example does not end here. The real ending belongs to each of us, in how we choose to live, in how we choose to treat others. Because kindness is not a role, it is a choice. And like Keanu Reeves, we all have the power to choose it. And so his story closes not with applause, but with a whisper, carried into the hearts of millions. Be kind, be humble, be human.